Hello everyone, and welcome to my very first YouTube video. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm Ileana, and on this channel I create content about the intersection of politics and parenting, media, social justice, anything that fits into the world of motherhood and the current climate of living in America. I've been creating content for years on TikTok and on Instagram, but this is my first time trying to do long form video content. I'm a journalist by trade, and I have a degree in sociology, so that's what my background is. That's where I'm coming from. I've always been passionate about politics and social justice, and I've always honestly been a content creator. Since I was in college, I've been making things. Back then, it was in the form of a blog, but then I went on to have a career in media, journalism, mostly in the parenting space. But I also wrote for a local newspaper, a local magazine. But TikTok is definitely the biggest platform I've had, and I've loved getting to share my views and opinions and talk about things that are actually important. So for my very first video, we're gonna start off with something that is timely and important and kind of depressing, but honestly, what isn't depressing when it comes to politics these days? And that is the recent news that Mississippi just declared a public health emergency over the rising infant mortality rates in the state. Now, I saw this information in an article from People magazine on Instagram, and I immediately clicked on the comments, and some of the comments were things like, why? How could this be? People were like, why are more babies dying? What do you mean, why? It couldn't possibly be the maternity care deserts where women cannot get the prenatal care they need to have healthy pregnancies. Couldn't be because we don't have universal health care. Couldn't be because people don't have safe, reliable housing. It couldn't possibly be the cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, when Medicaid is responsible for over 40% of the births in this country. In Mississippi, Medicaid covers nearly 53% of births. But how could cutting that possibly make a difference? Couldn't be the lack of sex education in this country, which leads to more unplanned pregnancies. Couldn't be the demonization of contraception. Couldn't be abortion bans, which are forcing people to carry to term infants that will not survive. But the fact that people were surprised by this news was baffling to me, because my immediate reaction was, yeah, of course we have an infant mortality crisis. It's almost like this is exactly what pro-choice people said was going to happen with the Dobbs decision when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. I'm pretty sure I even talked about it. Let's see if we can find it. Republicans would have you believe that abortion restrictions and abortion bans are about saving babies, right? Well, in Texas, which has some of the strictest abortion restrictions in the country, infant mortality rates have already risen. Infant deaths increased by more than 10% from 2021 to 2022. Texas was one of the first states to enact really strict abortion restrictions, so we will absolutely be seeing statistics like this from other states as well. The infant mortality crisis that is happening in Mississippi and in many other states is directly tied to the pro-life movement. It is the direct result of GOP policies. According to a news release from Mississippi's State Health Department, there were 9.7 deaths for every 1,000 births in Mississippi in 2024. That's the highest infant mortality rate in the state in a decade. The news release listed 4 leading causes of infant mortality in Mississippi: congenital malformations, preterm birth, low birth rate, and sudden infant death syndrome. When they talk about the congenital malformations, these are infants that cannot survive the first year of life, and doctors and parents may know that when they're pregnant and can't do anything about it. Is that not torturous? That is cruel and unusual punishment, to force someone to carry a pregnancy knowing that that baby cannot survive. But it's pro-life, right? The infant mortality rate is directly linked to poverty. Mississippi is one of the poorest states in the country. Residents of Mississippi often live in healthcare deserts, in food deserts. They don't have access to the things they need to carry a healthy pregnancy. We've talked about this so many times, but the pro-life movement is not pro-life. It's pro-birth. It is anti-choice. All they want to do is make people have more babies. Once those babies are born, they don't really care what happens to them. This is just proof of that. They want to force people to have babies, whether or not those babies can be cared for effectively. It is expensive to raise children, and instead of giving parents the resources they need, they're trying to cut them. They're cutting SNAP, they're cutting Medicaid, they're cutting Medicare. They don't want people to have access to food and medication and healthcare and doctors. Like, it's mind-blowing to me that people actually think that this is somehow pro-life. And we can't ignore the racial disparity here, because Black infants are so much more likely to die than white infants. I'm not saying that this is a direct result of the abortion bans, but that is clearly a piece of it. Most women who get abortions already have other children. For so many people, abortion is an economic decision. If you don't know where your next meal is coming from, if you don't know how you're gonna feed your family, if you don't know how you're gonna make your next rent payment, bringing another baby into your family is not a feasible option. And before you get all up in arms and you're like, oh, but they can give the baby up for adoption. First of all, you still have to carry that pregnancy. Even if you're giving up a baby for adoption, you still have to have a healthy pregnancy. And pregnancy puts your body through so much. The bigger problem with that is that adoption is not an alternative to pregnancy. It's an alternative to parenthood. But a lot of people can't afford to even have a pregnancy. According to the March of Dimes, nearly half of all counties in Mississippi are considered maternity care deserts, meaning they don't have obstetric care. If you don't have access to prenatal care, you're more likely to have an unhealthy pregnancy. That's just how it goes. How can you possibly know what the health of your pregnancy is if you don't have doctors checking on you? Imagine you live in one of these maternity care deserts and you have to travel to get to an OB, to get any sort of checkups, to get ultrasounds, to get blood work, anything like that. You have to travel to get there, maybe hours. You might have to take time off of work. You might have to find childcare. You might have to pay for transportation, whether that's gas for your car or a fare for a public bus or cost for an Uber. Depending on how far you have to go, you might have to get a hotel to stay overnight somewhere. And you have to do that multiple times throughout your pregnancy. In case you don't know, when you're pregnant, you have to go to the doctor minimum once a month at the beginning of your pregnancy. Toward the end of your pregnancy, after 36 weeks, you have to go every single week. If you're having to take time off of work and pay for childcare and pay for transportation, all to go to your OB appointment every week at the end of your pregnancy, you probably can't afford it. And so a lot of times people just don't go. It's not possible for them to go, which is what leads to some of these poor outcomes. This public health emergency was completely predictable and completely avoidable. And the pro-life movement is now responsible for increased maternal mortality rates and increased infant mortality rates. And the thing is, it's just gonna keep getting worse. The cuts to Medicaid won't fully go into effect until 2026. And at that point, more hospitals, more clinics, more doctors' offices that get Medicaid funding are gonna have to close. There are going to be more and more maternity care deserts. And as the GOP pushes for stricter and wider abortion bans, the same thing is gonna happen in more and more states. More people are gonna be forced to carry pregnancies to term knowing that the infants they deliver are not going to survive. People on the left have said it again and again and again and again, and we're gonna keep saying it until our lungs collapse. But being pro-life isn't pro-life at all. It's pro-forced birth. It is a far-right ideology and policy position, and it is killing babies and parents. It's not about saving babies or protecting the unborn. It's about controlling people's bodies. And until more people can see that, we're just gonna see more and more deaths. Whew, well, that was dark. No surprise for me. Anyway, if you love content like that, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you'll join me for future videos because I have a lot of ideas and I'm excited to share them with you guys on a different platform in a different way. And let me know in the comments what topics you want me to cover and what you want me to talk more about. This is just the starting point for me. So I don't know exactly where I'm gonna go with this, but I'm hoping you guys can help give me some direction. And yeah, hit like and subscribe and the bell. I don't know, whatever else you do for YouTube. Thanks for being here. See you again next time.